nutrition, we know that nutrition is the type of feeding or the method by which a certain organism feeds. So in this case, we'll be looking at nutrition Now, as is in human beings, in cows, in dogs, you see that we take in food manually and we undergo what we call heterotrophic nutrition. Plants undergo nutrition where mechanical taking in of food is not involved, but they make their own food internally. We know that plants make their own food internally, and from back in the years you've learned that they take in, or how it is that they get to be nutritious all the time and not die and feed is by the process of photosynthesis. So this brings us to the term photosynthesis. What is photosynthesis? So glucose, okay, from carbon dioxide and water in the presence of sunlight which is stored up in chlorophyll. So this is a process by which plants make or synthesize glucose carbon dioxide and water in the presence of sunlight stored in chlorophyll. Okay, now chlorophyll is a pigment. This is you see that some plant stems appear to be green, okay, but most of them are brown because they have the cambium layers that are dry, and externally they look like dry wood, but some stems are green, most of them are brown. So which structures in plants give us this characteristic? Because we know that chlorophyll is a green pigment found in plants. So it is leaves that are green. Most leaves are green, and those that are not green, it means that they do not photosynthesize. So in actual sense, what we are saying today is that photosynthesis takes place in the leaves, although a smaller extent of it may take place in the stem, but you should know that photosynthesis happens in the leaves. So you cannot study this topic without knowing or being able to identify the structures of leaves, that is both the internal and the external structures of leaves. You should be able to label the structures of a leaf and understand their functions, so that you know why it is that a leaf is suited for the function of photosynthesis. Now, before we go to leaves, in our definition we have said this is a process by which plants make glucose from carbon dioxide and water in the presence of sunlight stored in chlorophyll. So here we have the raw materials, meaning that making of glucose is supposed to be our final product. What is this final product? This is the thing that we are making. This is a process by which plants are feeding. So the food we are making here, we are calling it glucose. Plants make glucose. That is the food. Initially in grade 7 or 8 you used to say food, but this time you have upgraded to the term glucose because they form the sugar glucose. Now when this glucose is formed, it is supposed to use raw materials. For us to form that glucose, we need to have raw materials. The raw materials for this reaction are, so we can write both a word and a chemical reaction for photosynthesis. To just simplify that statement, you need to understand that what we are using here is carbon dioxide and water. So these are the things that are needed to be present for photosynthesis to take place. You need to have carbon dioxide and water. Now, the conditions, this should take place in the presence of sunlight, which is stored in chlorophyll. So these conditions will sit here on the arrow. Now, this should give us glucose, and of course the other byproduct of the process of photosynthesis is oxygen gas. So plants release oxygen gas by the process of photosynthesis. Whenever photosynthesis takes place, you expect that plants will also produce, apart from producing the food that they are making, they also produce oxygen gas. So this is the word equation you need to know. And knowing this equation, you can explain it in word form, because this is a combination of carbon dioxide and water in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll to produce glucose and oxygen. That is simply what photosynthesis is. So if you understand it in equation form, you can write it down anyhow, but this is basically what photosynthesis is. And for the chemical equation, okay, so the chemical equation for photosynthesis, we write our carbon dioxide there, plus water, which is H2O, should give you, in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll, it should give us glucose plus oxygen. Okay, so you balance it like that. Okay, so this is basically the word equation and the chemical equation for photosynthesis. And like I mentioned earlier, photosynthesis is a process that takes place in leaves. This process happens in the leaves of plants. So the other thing we need to know for today are the structures, and be able to identify some structures of leaves. So we'll start with the external leaf. The external leaf is basically the leaf that you can see. When you pick out a leaf outside from any tree, you will see that all leaves have a leaf stalk, which is the one that attaches them to the branch wherever you plucked it from. The attachment that you dislocated from the tree, we call that a leaf stalk. And then it has a margin which shows you the shape of that particular leaf. It has a midrib, which is the main vein in the middle, the line that is the biggest in the middle, because you'll see that it has many lines branching from that middle line. So the middle line, we call it a midrib. The lines or the venations that branch off from the middle vein or from the midrib, we call them veins. And the surface area of that leaf, the whole top surface area or this space around the leaf, we call that a lamina. So you should be able to identify these external leaves and also label them and give their functions. So let's just do that quickly. This is the structure of external leaf. So I'll draw one of the leaves that I have. You draw the one that you have. Leaves have different shapes and sizes, so it may not look the same. Okay, I'll draw the one I can see. You draw the one that you have. Okay, and of course we see veins branching off from the midrib like that. Okay, all right, so this is the basic structure of, or the external structure of a leaf. When you look at it like this, you see something like that. Okay, so let's label it together. Like I said, the part that attaches the leaf to the branches, we call it the stalk or leaf stalk or petiole. Okay. Then the margin is the one that, the line around the leaf, which gives you the shape of that leaf. So you have your leaf margin. Then you have the middle line, the biggest middle line or vein, we call it the midrib. Then the smaller ones are the veins. Then you have a leaf tip or apex. Okay, which is just the toppest or the last part of the leaf. This one, the pointed end of the leaf, the anterior end of your leaf. Oh yeah, and then this whole surface of your leaf, we call this the lamina. Okay, this is your lamina. So those are the structures of an external leaf that you need to know. Now, why is it that these structures help this leaf to undergo the process of making food in a plant? What is it that makes these structures allow this plant to make food? As you can see, the leaf stalk is the part which was connected to the branch. Why is it that this leaf is connected to a branch and then a branch is connected to a stem? Those stems are connected to roots. It's because inside this stalk we find tubes or structures that we call vascular bundle, which are a collective term for what we call the xylem and phloem. Now, the xylem and phloem are simply the structures in a plant which transport water and mineral salts, and the phloem there transports manufactured food. So whatever food the plant makes will be transported by the phloem, and the water from the roots and the mineral salts in the plant are transported by the xylem. So when you water your plant, you see that we do not water the leaves, but the leaves still look green. Even if you water, whether you water on top or you water at the bottom, if you're watering the top, you are just wasting your time. The best is for you to just water on the sand, because that water will go under the roots. The roots will absorb that water, and the water will move from the roots up until the last leaf of that particular plant through what we are calling the vascular bundle. So this stalk attaches the leaf to the branches, and inside it we find the water and food transport system. So from this stalk, you see that it will go through as a midrib. So all this midrib is also transporting water and manufactured food, until even the veins, they all transport water and manufactured food throughout the leaf. The lamina is just the surface of the leaf, this whole surface of the leaf, and you see that most of the leaves, they are wide in terms of surface. This is because it needs to give the leaf a large surface area for sunlight absorption. The leaf is wide in terms of surface so that it may trap as much sunlight as possible, because you will see that leaves are open in the air. They are not like small branches. They are wide in surface area to increase absorption of sunlight. Okay. And then the margin just gives you the shape of the leaf. So that is how all those external structures help leaves to carry out the process of photosynthesis, because you know that in the process of photosynthesis you need carbon dioxide and water. So this water is coming from the roots, passing through the stem, through the branches, and then through the stalk to the midrib and branching off through the veins. Sunlight is coming directly to hit your leaf as it is outside. That is why this process will mainly take place during the day, because that's when plants are exposed to as much sunlight as possible. So before we can go further, let us now also look at the internal structure of the leaf. Now this one, it's not something you can see by looking at it. When you look at this, you see the external structure. But if this leaf was to be broken in transverse, like what I've done, and then you view this part under a microscope, what you would see is something like this. Okay. Oh my gosh. Hope this chart will stick. Seem to be having challenges with this chart. Okay. Okay. That's better. All right. So this is an internal structure of a leaf. And you can see that this chart will not stick. Hope I can hold it on one end and just make it a quick explanation. Okay, you can see that there is a top layer here which we call the cuticle. This cuticle is a single layer of cells. It's a single layer of cells because it's supposed to allow penetration of sunlight into this leaf. Then this next layer, we call it the Polysaid Mesophyll, the Polysaid spongy mesophyll cells. This layer of cells, we call them the Polysaid Mesophyll layer of cells. Now, these ones, the dots here indicate the presence of chloroplasts. When you drew a structure of the plant cell, you drew chloroplasts in them because these are the structures that are responsible for formation of chlorophyll in plants. So meaning that these cells produce chlorophyll. They have chlorophyll in them, and we need that chlorophyll to store up sunlight for photosynthesis. We need the chlorophyll to store up sunlight for photosynthesis. Then in this third layer now, where you can see that the cells are loosely packed, you can see that this layer has some open spaces. These spaces are simply for gaseous exchange to take place. So these spaces, they exchange gases. That is, carbon dioxide goes in and oxygen goes out, because you know that in photosynthesis what we need as a raw material there is is carbon dioxide and water. Oxygen is a byproduct. So oxygen goes out of leaves and carbon dioxide enters the leaf for photosynthesis to take place. So these air spaces are for gaseous exchange. Also, the presence of stomata is for entry and exit of gases. So you see that during the process of photosynthesis, the stomata, these are just structures which simply open and close so that gases may enter and leave the leaf or the internal leaf. Okay, so the reason why this spongy mesophyll layer of cells is loosely packed is for gaseous exchange. Okay, and then down here you have a lower epidermis, which is just also a single layer of cells. So I'll repeat that. The reason why you have a single, the top layer of your leaf, what you can see on top of this leaf, this layer which you can see, which is shiny, because you notice that most leaves are shiny on top, a bit shiny and waxy. This is to prevent excessive water loss, and the reason why they have wax on top is so that this is a transparent layer, waxy layer, which will allow absorption of light. The reason why it's transparent is that it should allow absorption of light. That light should enter through the cuticle into the upper epidermis, into the parenchyma, the mesophyll parenchyma cells, and also into the spongy layer, and also be able to reach even the lower epidermis so that the leaf continues to photosynthesize. Okay, and then in the midrib, like I told you, you find the two structures, xylem and phloem. So this is a structure of the xylem and this is a structure of the phloem. Remember that the xylem will be transporting water and mineral salts, that is from roots to leaves. So this is like a tube. It has come running from the roots to the leaves through the stem and the branches. And then this phloem now will be transporting manufactured food which has been made in the leaf down to all parts of the plant. Okay, so because my chart is not sticking, I think I'll just remove it. Oh, it's stuck at the end. Okay. Oh. Okay. So you need to know that the cuticle this is a transparent layer of cells which allows absorption of light. Okay, and then the guard cells that we saw, these ones open and close for gaseous exchange to take place. Okay, then the xylem and phloem, of course, you need to know that those are the two structures that transport water, mineral salts, and manufactured food. So the vascular bundle, that is the xylem, transports water and mineral salts, while the phloem transports manufactured food. Okay, lastly, the chloroplasts, these ones form chlorophyll, which stores sunlight energy. Okay, so basically I just want us to identify or to be able to always remember the structures that really bring about this process of photosynthesis. So the water in the beginning here is coming from the xylem. As you can see, the xylem will transport water from the roots to the leaf, and then that leaf will find carbon dioxide because there is gaseous exchange taking place in those air spaces we saw in the leaf. There is gaseous exchange, and in the guard cells there is absorption of gases by diffusion, which is transported throughout the leaf by gaseous exchange in the guard cells. So the gas carbon dioxide will be found because of the guard cells and the pores, the open spaces and the pores in leaves. They will find water. The process will happen, but where is the sunlight coming from? The leaf is transparent in terms of external structure. So the cuticle has already absorbed sunlight, which has entered the hole throughout the whole leaf, and so there is sunlight which has been stored up in the chlorophyll pigment because they are also chloroplasts. So which means that this process is able to happen because of those structures of the internal leaf, and of course the ones which we looked at, which were for the external leaf. So next time we will be looking at the conditions that are necessary for photosynthesis and why photosynthesis is important in plants. For now, I'll end here. This has been Miss Lesa with you. Thank you very much.